Okay, we just finished looking at this intro.py program. I'm going to create a new one called userinput.py. So I'm going to go up here, new file, userinput.py, all one word. Okay, userinput.py, and hopefully you can see that well. If you're having a problem seeing the text, just make sure that the quality is good enough. I think if you go into the video, make sure it's set to at least 720p. It should be high enough quality. You'll be able to clearly see everything that I'm typing. So user input, all one word, .py. The other thing is I'm going to ask you to shy away or just don't put spaces in your file names. That can become an issue once we start putting things on the web, which we will do later on in the course. If we get around to it, I hope we do. And it's just easy. If you want to put a separation, use an underscore. So you could also call it user underscore input.py. So as soon as you see that, you can see that there's separate tabs here. If I click on this tab at the top, it's my intro.py program. I'm in user input.py now. This is a new program. So the number sign is something we can use in Python. You're seeing this all for the first time. Don't let it overwhelm you. You're going to start seeing things repeated very soon, but I'm showing you all these commands and all these things that you can do for the first time. Kind of like you're playing a new video game and all the commands are new. So just stay with it, you're going to be okay. But the number sign allows us to do something called a comment. And in a programming language, a comment allows us to do documentation. So if I put I'm going to just start typing out a sentence. The programming language, Python, ignores this. It's only for you to read. So it's good for documentation purposes. So maybe you wrote a program, you don't remember what it does. You know, later on in the course, we'll be writing programs that are a few hundred lines long, and comments are very valuable. It helps you identify blocks of code and what they do. So this program shows how to get user input and store it in a variable. Okay, so we already know what a variable is. The new part in this program is how to get a variable's value from the user to make it interactive. So remember, you're the programmer, and you're creating a program for the end user. Someone's going to be using this program. Probably just you, because it's just such a simple program right now. But later on, when you make your own game or you make your own application, other people will be using it. So when I say the user, I mean the person, not you. I don't mean you, because you're the programmer or the developer. I mean the person, the end user, the person who's going to be using the program. So we're trying to get some input from this user, this hypothetical user. Maybe it's your friend or your little brother or sister or something. You can show them later. So here's how we do it. We're going to start off with the variable name. I'm going to call the variable name first name. So I want to ask my user for their first name, and I want to store that. Something that's really common when you sign up for a new web service or a new social media service or a newsletter or whatever. It's going to ask you for your name. So first name equals, I like putting spaces around the equal sign. I think it makes it look more neater. And many programmers do that. It's a matter of style. And just like you want to have good writing style when you're in English class and good bibliography style, and there's certain rules for that, there are certain things that are considered standard in programming. And I would recommend, you know, I've seen programmers not put the spaces in. I personally think it looks cleaner, and because I'm teaching, I definitely, when you're seeing this for the first time maybe, I definitely want to make it look as cleanly as possible. Even when I'm programming something for myself, which doesn't happen that often anymore, I'll try to make the code look as neat as possible. And that way,
please call extension 1214. Sarkis, please call 1214.
And that way, when you go back to look at the program, it's easier to understand what you did in the past. So first name equals, it's the input statement. So the input is a Python statement. You type in the bracket, it will show you that it expects a prompt. Now the prompt is a string. Okay, so I'm going to just say, what is your first name? Question mark. And that's it. So the input statement is going to print out what is your name. Let's run it. And the end user is going to be presented with it's a question. You can see there's a cursor there. The program is still running. So it says, what is your name? And it's kind of paused. It's waiting for user input. So I'm going to type in my first name. Maybe it's Sarkis. And I'm going to press enter. And now the program's done. Let's go back here and actually do something with the name. So now I'm going to have a print statement, and I'm going to greet the user. I'm going to put bracket, quote. I'm going to say, good morning, or maybe it's afternoon, I don't know. And I'm going to put a comma after that. So remember, the word good morning, or the phrase good morning in that case, it's enclosed in quotes, so it's a string literal. Next to the comma, I'm going to put the name of my variable, first name. So just in the same way that you can put two variables on the same line, you can put a string literal in a variable on the same line as well, separated by a comma. So when I run it now it's more interactive. So when I run it, what is your first name? Sarkis. Press enter, it says good morning, Sarkis. So, all right, so that's it for user input as far as strings go, but I'm not done. I'm also going to show you numbers. Numbers, there's a bit of a change that has to be done when it comes to numbers. So this very video will be a few minutes longer. We're going to say age equals input. How old are you? Okay. Now some of you might have noticed that after it asked you for your name last time, that we just did, when you started typing, there was no space there. It just was right next, whatever you started typing was right next to the question mark. I like to put a space right after the question mark, just to make it more user-friendly. Because you're designing, at this point, we're just learning the real basics right now, but a big part of computer programming, when you do programming, is the user experience. And what the user, you might have heard of UX, the design for the user experience, and what that might be. And I'm just going to be a second here. And you want that user experience to be as pleasant as possible, and you want your program to be as easy to use as possible. Some of you probably have had an experience using an app on your smartphone where things are not quite laid out as user-friendly as you might have liked. And a lot of times the apps or the programs that get used the most and become the most popular are the ones that keep the user experience in mind. And you want to make it really, it's the human computer interface, HCI. And it's actually a branch of computer science. It's something you can study in college or university, and it's a very important aspect. So this is really small potatoes right now, but we might as well start talking about it. So that little space there could make a big difference between someone thinking that you thought about it and you wanted to make it look nice, And when I do go to mark your projects, that there is going to be a component in communication for what the user output looks like. Okay, so we've done age, we've done input. I'm going to say print, and let's say we wanted to see how old they were going to be in 3 years from now. We do age plus 3. I'm going to warn you, we're going to get a syntax error, but let's take a look at what it is. We're going to run this program. It's going to do the first part. It's going to ask us for our name that we already did. I'm just going to keep using the same name. And now it's going to say, how old are you? So if I put 20, which I'm not, but 20, it's going to give me an error. It says, and usually the last line just before the prompt tells you what the error is. In Visual Studio Code, it says type error. Oh, and by the way, if you're using Replit, you'll get a very similar error. It'll look almost identical. The stuff before it might look a bit different. So, okay, first of all, let's just back up a minute. It shows you what line the error is on. It shows me it's on line 6. And Visual Studio Code numbers all the lines, so we can see it's on this last line where we tried to print age plus 3. It says, type error can only concatenate. Okay, so concatenate is just a fancy word for putting together or gluing together. So we're trying to glue together two things, age plus 3. Okay, and the reason why it thinks you're trying to concatenate and not add is because age is not a number. Age is a string. So for those of you that were really paying really close attention here, or maybe you programmed before, the input statement only allows you to get strings. Here's a small addition or fix that we can make to our program to make everything work. We're going to put the word int int is short for integer, with a bracket around the entire thing here. So, so I've got a set of brackets, just like in math, the way brackets nest, the same thing happens in programming. So int has brackets nested around the whole input statement, as you can see. And if you use your cursor and just move around, if you move to one of your brackets, it will show you what other bracket matches up with it. It draws boxes around both brackets. You can see there's a bracket at the beginning of int and at the very, very end of the line. So it's going to take whatever the user types in for input and change it into an integer, kind of magically. We don't care about how that happens right now, but now when we run our program, it's able to add 3 to our age. So what's your first name? Same as before. And what's your age? 20. And now it's putting 23. So it knows how old we're going to be in 3 years. Here's a small user-friendly thing we can add to our program. We can say in brackets, we can put in a comma at the end, we're going to put in 3 years, you will be space, and try that out. So that's it for now. I'm going to stop this video. See you next time.